Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. Today, we sit down with a truly innovative entrepreneur in the technology space. What is a tech founder doing on a skilled trades podcast? Well, meet Kassidy Hazelton, CEO of Hard Hats, an on-demand recruiting platform connecting construction workers and contractors to combat downtime and labor shortages with available jobs. Now, you see why I asked her to be on the show. I talk a lot about the available avenues in the skilled trades, and in this day and age, the tech space is certainly one of them. Tune in to this episode to hear Kassidy's story of how she went from the medical field to a skilled trades adjacent tech startup that allows her to tap into her entrepreneurial spirit to solve one of the biggest problems the industry is facing today, the skilled trades gap. As always, this show is not monetized and we don't run ads. We rely strictly on word of mouth from our listeners to further the mission. So, if you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to rate it, review it, and share it on whatever platform you're listening on. The future generations of tradespeople depend on it. They depend on you. So thank you again, and enjoy this episode of the Blue is the New White podcast with Kassidy Hazelton. Welcome to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. I have got Kassidy Hazelton here with us today. Kassidy, welcome to the show.
Hello, how's it going today?
Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to you. Those of you in my LinkedIn network may actually know Kassidy. She posts all the time on LinkedIn. So we're going to give her a chance to kind of explain what it is that she does today and how she got into this line of work. Kassidy, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us how you got to where you are today?
Yes, awesome. Thank you for having me. So my name's Kassidy. I am a fourth generation industry expert to the construction workforce. My entire family has been in this industry for over 70 years. I have basically been grandfathered in along with my father's customers and just that overall relationship. So it's highly benefited me with the company that I have now. I'm from Arizona. I'm a native. I've been born and raised here, and I'm a trade college graduate. So I didn't go to a university, but I got kind of sucked into that Remington College opportunity early on out of high school. And so I took some different avenues, but I realized about 5 years ago, I had some abilities to innovate, a creative mindset, and which then led me to my company now called Hard Hats. And Hard Hats is a tech company that is raising capital as well. And what we do is we help construction companies hire during the labor shortage. And so there's a really big problem with small to mid-sized companies finding manpower. And there's also a problem with people in the industry who just don't have a good resource when they experience downtime or turnaround. So we kind of jump in the middle of that so that we can help navigate workers or people new to construction. And we match them to companies in dire need of manpower. So in a nutshell, I'd like to say we're kind of the match.com for construction, just to kind of get everyone to wrap their head around it. And other than that, what would you like for me to add on to that intro?
Okay, well, that gives me a good base. So we're kind of going to walk through your timeline here.
Got it.
So you're fourth generation in the industry. Your family's been in it for 70 years. I imagine that growing up, like in high school and stuff like that, you've kind of had a view of the trades that a lot of people maybe don't. Is that fair to say?
Well, I think growing up, I was obviously a young girl, teenager. I had no interest into even that type of industry. I kind of fell in the lines of doing what everyone else was doing, if that makes sense. But to answer your question, I really think that I didn't know much about this industry as a youngster.
You just weren't interested in it, basically, right?
Yeah, I'm of course I'm a woman, but I I see the opportunity now, so I'm kind of just going very hard at it.
No, that makes sense, and that's kind of what I hear quite a bit. I talk to a lot of young men and women in the trades, and I have long list of reasons written down that people don't kind of look toward the industry while they're in high school. Like I was saying before, I wish somebody would have just told me, kind of everything that was involved in the industry. I probably would have been a whole lot more interested, because otherwise I just rely on my perceptions that I see from, the media and everything else of what tradespeople or construction workers actually do. But the truth is, it's far more than that.
Yep.
So I am curious then. So you weren't interested in this field at all when you were in high school. But after high school, you said you went to like a trade college graduate. What led to that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I kind of felt this pressure in society to kind of fall in the lines of what everyone was doing, and what could I do fast to kind of just get my foot in the door into some type of trade. So I went to trade schools. I'm 37, back out of high school, were really popular back then, and now we're all in debt because of it. And so, yeah, I mean, anyone that knows watching this can definitely relate to that. I took the road of getting into the medical industry as a medical assistant, and I actually really enjoyed it. And like I said, during that time, even my dad was still very much in the industry. I was never even brought to light through my dad of saying, hey, you should go into construction or anything. But I now see that college, or the type of school that I went to, really wasn't that valuable for me where I'm at today, being a grown adult and adulting in life. So, yeah. And I kind of wish that I took a different path, to be completely honest with you, in taking that college opportunity out of high school, for sure.
Sure. I hear that a lot too. But the important thing is, I think that, especially in people like us, we arrived at the trades eventually, which means we learned something, or, a thing or two along the way that led us down this path. So when you were in, I imagine you said you graduated from this college. Did you pursue that line of work afterwards, or did you immediately switch gears into something else?
I pursued it for a decent time, but I knew that I've always had this entrepreneur spirit. I did some things alongside that kind of gave me some independence, just because I like to hustle. I like to make money. And so I went into some teaching aerobic classes and boot camps, just to kind of free that spirit, I guess. And then once, like I said, about 5-6 years ago, something inside of me just kept telling me I wanted to start a business. Like once I get to that point of where that thought won't leave me alone. I mean, it's not a good idea for me to ignore those desires. Yeah. And so that's kind of how that path took place. And I'm glad that I did, because I realized that I'm actually very good at business, more than ever. And I will say, to feeling that pressure to kind of fit into society and to kind of give back into a very normal and traditional way in your life, really in the end makes you unhappy, because you're not being your authentic self. You're not really understanding who you are and what those abilities are and what you could do with yourself, that can keep you happy forever.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I'm a big advocate for enabling the younger generation to succeed. I think the problem right now is that everybody kind of forces what they define as success onto their students or their children or whatever it may be, and really what we should be doing is letting them define what success means to them, and then helping them down that path. And, I mean, that's the way I see it. Some people disagree with that because, they know what's best. But, that's just what I see, especially when it comes to the skilled trades, right? Because a lot of people don't know the type of opportunities or benefits or success that this industry could offer. So, and being an entrepreneur is definitely one of them.
Mhm.
That's the path that I took, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But before we get into that, because I'm going to have some questions on that aspect of it, do you think what do you think about the perception of the skilled trades right now as you see it? Kids, say in high school, how do you feel like they view the industry that you're now in?
Right. That's a really good question because just right now, if you're looking at it right this second, you see that out of all the industries, this is the only industry that's still been very active. And I know people from young age to, anyone, they're still seeing that construction workers are still moving right along. Um, I think people just look at construction as a whole, and they see dirt and they see different types of people working, and that they're working outside. Arizona is hot, and there's really not all that much, a good vibe out of it, I feel, as a young person to see this industry. Now, on the flip side of that, what people don't see is that there is a ton of money to be made in this industry. It is astronomical. There is always consistent work. And now that we're providing solutions and innovation in this industry, there's going to be easier and more productive job site management platforms for people to actually be involved with technology as they work into this industry. So that's something to really keep in mind if you're kind of wanting to go into something that has a little bit more advancements. And if you're considering going into this industry and you're not quite sure even where to start, there's a lot of opportunities out there that will pay you to go into this industry and come out making over $100,000 a year. That's with no college debt. So
Yeah, exactly. Why isn't that at the forefront of the conversation in some of these high schools?
now,
That's that.
because school is very shoved down a lot of people's, throats, essentially. That's another word to put it. So they're feeling this pressure constantly to go to school when realistically there's much better opportunities for you. Yes.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with that statement. And I've always said, the skilled trades industries, whether it be HVAC or electrician or mason or construction worker or whatever it
Mhm.
is, we've got a marketing problem, I think, in this industry.
Yeah.
The trades aren't sexy. Let's just call it what it is,
Yep.
right? But that's only on the outside, right? Because I mean, you and I both know that the trades are sexy as hell on the inside. You just said, I mean, the kind of what we're seeing right now, at least I'm noticing, is people are starting to bring to light how much money can be made in the trades. And to me, that's a good hook, right? That's a good piece of information to get somebody's attention about this industry. In order to keep their attention, for this industry, I think we need to kind of go a little bit deeper into the other personal benefits that the trades can provide. Like, for instance, one of the excuses I hear a lot for pushing people toward a college education is job security, which I think is incredibly ironic because you just said, construction especially is one of the, essential industries right now that kept on cranking even through COVID and everything else.
Mhm.
And with the skilled trade shortage that we're seeing, I mean, the trades are in demand everywhere. If you ask me, the trades are probably one of the most secure jobs, one of the most secure career paths you can have. So the argument of security by way of a college degree is pretty easy to debunk.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, Arizona is a different space, I feel, for job security. It's very competitive, because the fact that we're a right to work state, and not to get anyone confused, if anybody doesn't know what that means, but there's some still jobs that are kind of being taken and not as secure, but the thing is that there's many jobs to go around in this industry. So no matter what company you go to, there's always going to be a seat for you somewhere, due to many of problems that we see in the industry, like turnaround and downtime. But there's solutions, and there's employers always hiring for the position that you may not have been able to get. You'll always find a job in this industry, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. And again, another one of those benefits that I think is kind of on a pedestal these days too is entrepreneurship, right? Which is the path that you found in the skilled trades. So I want to talk a little bit about that. You said about 5 or 6 years ago is when you started to think about this entrepreneurial path for yourself. I'm curious kind of how that came about, how it began, and how you made that decision.
Entrepreneurship is a very fun and emotionally draining but exciting process. I don't personally feel that it's cut out for everyone, but if you have that desire to be, just on top of your game and hustle, you got that mindset, that is something not to ignore. I think that people do ignore that, and it just really ends up getting them in trouble, if anything. I about right 6 years ago, as I mentioned prior to that, I've always had the entrepreneur spirit. And then 5 years ago, I really started to tap into that a little bit more and finding resources to get me onto this next pedestal. And I found a lot of people here in Arizona willing to get me to this next place in my career. And I'll add, there are free resources, free venture boot camps and workshops for business people and early stage startups. And oh my gosh, I mean, they're endless here. And again, they're free. And so how it all kind of started here is I was looking for a thing on an Eventbrite or something to learn how to code. And that's really when it all started. And it was here at Galvanize. From that moment, coming to that workshop, I then became a member here at Galvanize, and then got really involved with Arizona, the Commerce Authority, all the competitions here. It unlocked a completely new ability that I did not know existed. So I give a lot of recognition to Galvanize for providing me with all of these resources. And from a little prior to that, I was also approached by the Arizona Department of Transportation, who also has a business development program. And this was very early on in my early days of coming into this industry. And that was the initial moment that my business opportunity became something really valuable here in Arizona. So in other words, I know that was probably a lot to take in, but I've done a lot in 5 years, 6 years, and I absolutely love entrepreneurship. It's definitely what I'm destined to do.
Yeah, it sounds like you've done a lot, which is no surprise, as you mentioned. It takes a special person, a special personality to be an entrepreneur. I'm a big advocate for that. In my book, I actually list out all the different paths that skilled trades can lead you down, and I think I make special mention at business ownership, entrepreneurship, that if you don't if you don't have thick skin and if you don't have the personality for this, skip it, because people. I think there's this false perception out there these days that and correct me if I'm wrong, but people think that entrepreneurship a lot of times is a way to not work as hard, kind of be your own boss, right?
Yes. It's not what Instagram says it is. Okay, okay guys, it's don't be fooled, okay? It's not all glorious that they make it sound and everyone's showing money. No, there's some serious grind behind it, and you're going to laugh and you're going to cry and you're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but you're right. It takes a very special person to be in that type of industry and opportunity. So
Yeah, absolutely. and get used to some sleepless nights because,
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
big part of it. So what made you choose the construction industry, the skilled trades gap? How did that happen?
So ironically, I realized that I had this amazing problem solving ability. And when I first kind of took a little pivot, made the hard hats company about a year ago, building the idea out, I really felt that it was important to kind of analyze the industry. And I am able to kind of see things personally that I don't think anyone else can. Maybe they can, but they're not bringing them to light. I like to be able to look at the industry, find out what's going on. Where are these gaps that people are not paying attention to? Why is there not a company? Why is there no one talking about these serious issues, these pain points that it is so bad? And so because I'm so innovative and creative, I've been able to take these problems, these gaps, and form a solution and a piece of technology around it. And that's a real true innovator and disruptor, in my opinion, when you have that ability to oversee a problem, take something similar to what someone's doing, but completely flip it and make it into something better and newer. And when I decided to my now solution of helping these small to mid-sized contractors who are seriously going through some HR recruiting problems. And you hear them often say, I can't find anybody. I can't find anybody. And I was actually talking to a customer a few weeks ago that was referred to me. And he's like, how did you do that? He was like shocked that I found him this killer CDL driver who he just couldn't believe it, you know. And I said, I don't know. I guess I just have the magic touch, and that I just have some ways about pulling people in. But that to me really showed that there is some underlying problems that people haven't addressed to the people who most need help. There's so many gaps, and I'm filling that with hard hats.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's
Mm-hmm.
and that's very smart on your part. I mean, basically in a nutshell, you saw a need and you're working towards filling it, and that's really that's the mark of a true entrepreneur, right? Is, it again, it's still on the outside when you're explaining it, it may not be the sexiest thing in the world, but it serves a purpose, a real actual purpose, and fills a need that, you're right, so many people have. I mean, I think everybody that I know in this industry and parallel industries, around the skilled trades always say the same thing. Why can't we find good people?
Yeah.
It's so hard to find good people. And it is, it definitely is. And we all know that. And, and that's why part of my mission to close the skilled trades gap is to get more people to enter into it. You know what I'm saying? So you have a bigger, pool to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that's definitely, I find that very interesting. And that sounds like it's rewarding once you can, you can go to your customer and you can say, hey, I found somebody for you. You're going to love them, to be able to have that sense of accomplishment. Right.
Right. And yeah, I mean, the fact that we're saving them so much time and we're basically just relieving them of these temp staffing firms and building a relationship. And that's what this industry is about. They love that, have this easygoing conversation. I learned this from my dad. My dad was in sales, leasing out equipment forever. So I grandfathered all of his customers and contractors. And my dad just said, you know what, just shoot the shit with them. And that's exactly what I started doing. I thought, hey, Bob, how's it going? How's Diane? How's the dog? And, and just kind of make it easy for them. And they'll go with that person all day before they go to some fancy recruiter trying to sell them something. So that's worked to my advantage. And it's extremely valuable. I'm very happy.
I'm going to circle back to that because this is something that I hear a lot about the industry and what relationships mean in the industry. I think it's huge. It's bigger in this industry than a lot of others. So I'm going to get back to that. I am curious about one thing. I'm curious, this year, 2020, what did business look like for you in the midst of the entire pandemic? I mean, was it had to just be, yeah, I'm just curious. What did it look like?
Um, okay, so it was really interesting because right when I started getting some validation at the beginning of January, the economy, you could feel the economy, right? Um, then we got hit with everything. I still wasn't to a point where things were making sense yet. Like we were just launching our most MVP, most viable product, and just kind of making our way into the industry. Then we got hit with everything, and I had to go through some growing pains, some serious growing pains, some marketing stuff, validations, technology issues, and whatnot. So, during all this, and I'll be completely honest, I was working at a little side job to make some extra money. Because that's what you got to do in entrepreneurship. You got to work wherever you can, pulling money to bootstrap while you're
Yeah.
pulling this money in. And so I actually got let go of my job during that. So I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I had to adapt, and I had to adapt quick. And so then I started really hitting hard on this matching process. But funny thing is that I actually started making more money right when like everything got heavy, like serious and lockdown and quarantine. I'm actually getting calls more than I ever did before. And I don't know if it's because I just started getting out there more. But I'm here. I mean, I have a customer who's like, I need your help today, right now. And I'm like, okay, so I have not slowed down at all. I was one of the lucky ones out of this pandemic to continue to thrive. And I hate that we have other companies who are not. But that says a lot about construction. And so that's something to take note coming into this industry, or if you're deciding to leave. It's always going to do well, always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's remarkable. So when COVID actually hit and you lost your other job, you kind of threw yourself completely into hard hats and at that point, and you actually began to grow significantly in the midst of everything that was going on.
Yeah, and a lot of companies, startups like myself, are actually born and built during recessions, and there's another word I'm thinking of, and it won't come to me right now, but downturns, I think is what they're called. So, meaning when things are not well in the industry or the economy, and so like Disney, I think was one of them. DoorDash. There's a bunch of companies who were that were like, well, what are we going to do? And the economy did great, and then they started doing better. So I'm kind of one of those companies that can relate to what, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
What is it the politicians say? Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah, I've been like, I don't know if I can keep going at this pace, but I'm glad that I'm sticking out because these customers need me. They need me. So.
Yeah, and that's great. And I know that this pandemic has sucked for a lot of people, but I'm a big proponent of finding the good in situations, finding the opportunity in situations, and especially when your back is against the wall and you're faced with no other option, that sink or swim, fight or flight. That reaction, I think, is what separates the good entrepreneurs from maybe the ones that shouldn't be entrepreneurs. And
exactly.
not trying to sound harsh for all you listening out there. I'm sorry, I mean nothing by that, but I stand by it.
They call it grit.
Grit, yes, that's right.
There's a serious amount of grit that goes into it, and not everyone's going to make it.
That's it. That's
yeah.
right. Mm-hmm. So you're still, I mean, obviously you're still a startup. And I'm curious, I'm curious about how you're, if you don't mind me asking, how you're raising money, how you're funding your operation in that sense.
I'm glad you asked, actually, because I get the chance to say how much I'm raising is always a good opportunity for me. Raising capital, one, as a woman, 2% of women only actually get venture capital funding, and in a male-dominant industry too. And so there's some challenges. Now we're dealing with a pandemic. So I have these serious barriers sitting in front of me that I'm every day trying to break down. I'm currently raising $300,000 in convertible notes, which is just a fancy way of saying we'll turn into equity later down the road, at a discounted rate, blah, blah, blah. And so this is our pre-seed round of financing that we're going to be taking into our next stage of development, which I'll disclose a little bit. We're building a full marketplace app, kind of like the DoorDash situation.
Okay.
Whole nother podcast probably. But, it's going to do something much more exciting, and actually we'll relieve the shortage and the industry. Instead of pushing people in this industry, we're going to bring solutions now. But
Awesome.
Anyhow, that's what the funding is going towards. Currently, how I fund my business is called bootstrapping. And you got the friends, you got the family, any hustle, any way that you can bring that money in is how you keep your company going. And so that goes along with not being afraid to ask. Yeah, you have to sometimes beg.
No, it's true words, but that's, again, I mean, it points right back to the personality of an entrepreneur, right? I mean, you can't be afraid to look somebody in the eye and say, "Hey, give me some money."
Yeah.
But absolutely. And that's awesome. So I'm curious, 2% of women, you said, what is it you said? 2% of women actually get venture capital?
Right. So 2%, yes, get venture capital funding, and 38% of businesses in the United States, that's how much, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. There's 38% of women-owned businesses in the United States, and only 2% of that actually get venture capital funding. I mean, 38% is not a ton, but that's enough. That's a significant amount who are asking for funding who aren't actually getting it. And it's very hard for me to swallow at times when I see people who are at an idea stage or don't even have revenue or traction, and they're all male operated getting funding like that. And you have to take a lot of things into consideration when someone's getting funding, but statistically, women have a whole heck of a harder time getting funding. Absolutely.
Yeah. And especially, like you said, this is a male dominated industry that you're a part of, which I do often talk about women in the trades. I'm curious from your perspective, you probably kind of have a finger on that pulse a little bit because you're in the mix when it comes to recruiting and establishing these relationships and talking to people in the industry. What are you seeing out there as far as women in the trades, women in construction?
It's kind of a thing right now.
Yeah.
If you're a company not capitalizing on that or bringing that to light, you need to reevaluate things, because women now, because of all the things that we've kind of seen over the years of women empowerment. I'm not a feminist or anything, just for the record. But it's something that as businesses to recognize that women should be more acknowledged for their ability and their talents versus their gender. And we, in this industry, I've actually been to the Build Your Future Women in Construction expo thing that they had recently. And from what one of the gal that runs it, Marsha, I think is her name, says that the industry and the companies that sponsor into that are saying they are craving women to be in the office. Like they not, don't, think craving. I'm saying that they're needing this new energy to be brought into the office because they realize that we're a critical point to keeping them moving along. There's budgets where women especially are very analytical. We're very detailed and we're precise. Mm-hmm. And sometimes men don't have that. So they realize that we're a very important part. And there's a lot of women coming into this industry, including myself. I mean, I never thought I would be coming into this industry like this ever.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good mindset to have, and it really, I mean, it's not about necessarily just women in the industry. It's about, having the mindset that it doesn't matter. None of that matters as long as whoever you bring aboard can do the job and do the job well.
Yep.
That's kind of the mindset that I adopt. Black, white, woman, man, it doesn't matter as long as you can do the job in front of you. And I think that's just a mindset that a lot of people should have. Do you find that some companies are resistant to that for whatever reason?
I mean, there might be some that have that mindset. And I'm just thinking of a couple of particular companies.
Don't mention any names.
Yeah, no. that there's kind of this sniff test, we'll call it, before coming into this industry. And you kind of have to have that attitude. There's this thing that a lot of companies, especially contractors, the on-site pros, superintendents, all of them, they're looking for this thing. And it's kind of, if you don't have that energy, that vibe, they'll wean you out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But that's because they're looking for people who want to work. They're looking for work ethic. My brand is built around work ethic. Because that's important to bring to light, because that's something you'll hear often in this industry is, work ethic. So I think it's important through my brand to actually draw that name in so people can kind of recognize construction to work ethic as they're entering into this industry.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's a valid point. Work ethic is obviously important. And this is something I think about sometimes, because it speaks to the perceptions, right, that exist around the industry. Everyone says, oh man, well, skilled trades, construction, that seems like a lot of work. And yeah, hell yeah, it's a lot of work. But, the argument can be made that no matter what you do, no matter how you define success, no matter what path you go down, if work ethic is a barrier for you, then, I mean, you might as well just give it all up and pitch a tent under the overpass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right. You can't be living it, mom and dad's forever. I mean, there's some steps in life you have to take. You got to go outside and get dirty, So there's some normal things in life that you have to experience, and that includes working and working hard, in my opinion, to develop that work ethic as an adult.
Absolutely. So what's next for Hard Hats? I mean, I know you kind of gave us a little glimpse into that marketplace app that you're working on. But what else does Hard Hats aim to accomplish?
Oh, well, I try to take one day at a time, keep my finger on the future for sure. Yes, as I mentioned, I saw a much larger opportunity through this discovery process in the industry that we can actually provide a lasting service for contractors who need multiple people. And what's going to happen through that is when companies experience downtime due to weather, when a storm hits or something, an inspection doesn't pass, when projects actually finish, any type of delay, we want to be able to give a contractor the opportunity to lend out their crew. That then, instead of dealing with individuals, we're now dealing with entire crews, which will actually innovate the staffing companies that we see, and bring them into this marketplace, this little platform that will showcase who they are, their reviews, their skill set, their actual trade, and their segment, and will benefit that contractor for lending out their crew and then getting them back at the same time, but also helping the other contractor with their timelines as well. That right there actually brings relief to the labor shortage versus saying, oh my God, what are we going to do, everybody? We don't have enough people in this industry. We got to think of solutions now. And so then this also gives the opportunity for foremen to actually build crews as well. When foremen leave projects, they typically take their crew with them. So there needs to be something for them as well to say, hey, I've got a 5-man crew that can do operate concrete, labor, all that stuff. We're ready, guys. And this is how much we want per hour. And then you got a guy come in and say, okay, this is our location. And it's that simple. So that's really what the funding's going towards. That is the overall big plan. That's 6 times more the revenue than what I'll be making now. Much more bigger opportunities for sure.
Wow, that's the first time I've ever heard something like that. That is
your head seems like it's blowing up right now.
No, it is in a good way. No, that's awesome. I mean, that really is. That's the first time I've heard something like that, and it's incredibly innovative. Did you come up with that yourself?
I did. You know what I did is I actually, during the pandemic, the lockdown, there was nobody here at Galvanize, and I went into one of the rooms here, the conferences, and I went up on a whiteboard, and I unlocked this cruise thing. I have a whole whiteboard layout of it. I took all these pictures of it, and that's how my mind starts to create these solutions. It's extremely fascinating how I'm able to kind of dial these things in. And I thought, how can I do this? How can I do cruise? And I even found the insurance policy that can be done within the platform, an agreement policy, all the stuff. I mean, it took me 45 minutes to an hour.
When are you going to be on Shark Tank?
I'm scared of Shark Tank. I don't even know. But, the thing is that the industry is very unclear right now, or the markets are. And so people are just like, investors are evaluating. They have to be able to assess the markets. And I know for a fact that people are like, whoa, what's this chick doing? Because this is like on a whole nother level of solutions. And I always like to add with what I'm doing and the solutions that I'm providing and the innovation. Ironically, my birthday was on Labor Day. So I'm sorry, but that doesn't seem like a sign to me. Maybe it's not, but I feel this significance and the ideas that I bring along in this industry. Something's happening here.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on that, and happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
That's incredible, and I think it's really going to make a huge difference in this industry for sure.
It's scary, but yes.
Well, of course it's scary. That's how you know you're onto something.
I know. Yes.
All right, cool. Well, I do have one more question for you before we wrap it up. It's something I ask everybody. We talked a little bit before about pushing people toward their definition of success. And, I know that you're not in the field working as a construction worker, but you are in what I would call a skilled trades adjacent industry. You have a tool that serves the skilled trades. I work with a lot of people that do the same thing. They offer technology that helps the skilled trades advance, all of that. But I'm curious, most of all, how you define success personally, and how now the skilled trades are helping you, construction is helping you achieve that.
Yes. So I actually defined success through simply providing a solution and relieving that person of a problem that they have or had. And being able to sit back and think, wow, I just made someone's life easier, better. I saved them money or whatever it may be. That to me is the biggest success. And be able to turn someone's problem into light, I think, is the ultimate. And that will always make your company grow. It's not about money. Who cares? I mean, the money's great, but who cares about the money? It's about what can you do to make other people's life better. And that's the mindset of an entrepreneur. The success to this industry and what it's done for me, thank you. I would say that the fact that I've been able to build a relationship with a lot of companies, I actually have a phone call with Cemex here shortly, and that I'm able to find trust between people, big companies who want to be able to utilize my services. That alone, those people in the industry who are known, very known, makes me much more successful as I grow. I know that there's a lot of companies that are now keeping a very close eye on me, and they're starting to reach out. And that alone with that word of mouth, because that's what this industry works off of, is word of mouth. I'm creating that same process. will always keep me successful, and just being real at the end of the day. I keep it 100% real all the time. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And that's a great definition of success. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Cassidy, where can people find you?
Yes. My handlers for social media for the company is at Hire Hard Hats, HIRE Hard Hats. And then I always say follow me on LinkedIn, which is Kassidy with a K and Hazelton. You can always find me on Facebook as well. It's a little bit more personal, just family stuff. But of course, Instagram. My website is www.hirehardhats.com. If you're interested in coming into this industry, just simply sign up on the worker sign up and submit your skill set for me, and if you're new to construction or not. And if you want to email me, feel free to email me at info@hirehardhats.com. Yep.
Awesome. Cassidy, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Good. Best of luck with everything, and congratulations on your success.